I arrived home and found all my things in the front yard. My daughter-in-law appeared and said, "We decided to do some cleaning. Those old things are useless now." I looked her in the eye and replied calmly, "Then I am also going to clean out what is no longer useful to me." I took out my cell phone. It was time to show who really runs things here. I will never forget that moment, that precise instant when my life split in two. I had just returned from Ohio. I had buried my younger sister, Grace, after watching her suffer for 6 months with cancer. I was still wearing the black funeral dress sticking to my skin. I could still smell the damp earth and withered flowers. I could still hear the crying of my nephews saying goodbye to their mother. I came back destroyed. I came back with a broken soul. I came back needing a hug, a cup of hot tea, a kind word from my son Michael. But what I found was silence. I opened the gate of my house. Well, the house. That 2-story house with a garden in front that I bought myself after working 40 years cleaning offices. That house I painted light yellow because I always dreamed of a cheerful home. That house I gifted to my son 3 years ago when he married Linda, because a mother always wants to see her children established. And there they were, all my things, thrown in the yard as if they were trash. My clothes, my shoes, the photographs of my late husband, the hand-knitted shawl my grandmother gave me before she died, my children's documents from when they were babies. Everything, absolutely everything, piled up next to the bougainvillea plants that I planted myself. I stood paralyzed. My purse fell from my hands. "What?" I whispered, feeling the air escaping my chest. And then she appeared. Linda came out of my house with a smile on her face. She was wearing a new dress, one of those that cost at least $200. Her hair was freshly styled, her nails perfect, makeup flawless. She looked as if she had just come out of a beauty salon, while I came from burying my sister. "Oh, Emily, I am so glad you are finally here," she said with that sweet and fake voice she always used with me. "We decided to do a deep cleaning of the house. You know, all those old things took up a lot of space and, well, they are useless now." I stared at her. My hands were trembling. "Old things?" I repeated slowly. "Linda, those are my belongings. There are the photo albums of my children, my personal documents, the clothes of—" "Oh, yes, I know," she interrupted me with a wave of her hand, like someone shooing away a fly. "But we needed the space in your room. We are going to turn it into the baby's room. Didn't Michael tell you? I am 3 months pregnant." I felt a blow to my stomach. Pregnant? And I found out like this? After throwing my things into the street? "Linda, I need to talk to Michael," I managed to say, although my voice was cracking. "He is working, Emily. He will be late, but do not worry. We left a little spot for you. Come, let me show you." She took me by the arm with that fake familiarity that irritated me so much. She led me to the back of the house, to the small utility room that we used to store tools and bags of cement. She opened the door. "Tada, you can stay here." We cleaned up a bit. We put in a folding bed. It is tiny, but sufficient. Mind you, we need you to be discreet. You know, with the baby on the way, we do not want stress or people who get in the way. I looked at that room. It measured no more than 6 feet by 6 feet. It smelled of dampness. The only window faced a dark alley. The folding bed had a thin and stained mattress. Something inside me broke. But something else, something deeper. It ignited. I looked her in the eye. Linda kept smiling, expecting me to lower my head, to accept, to say, "Thank you for leaving me a corner in the house that I bought." Instead, I took a deep breath. "You know what, Linda?" I said with a calm that even I did not know I had. "You are right. It is time to do some cleaning, a deep cleaning of everything that no longer serves me." Her smile faltered for just a second. I took my cell phone out of my pocket. I looked for a number I had saved for years. "Mr. Henderson, my lawyer." "What are you doing?" asked Linda, no longer with the fake sweetness in her voice. "Cleaning," I replied. "Exactly what you suggested." I dialed the number. I heard the ringtone, and while I waited for them to answer, I looked Linda straight in the eye. For the first time in 3 years, I did not look away, because in that moment, I understood something. I had gifted that house out of love, but never, ever had I gifted my dignity. And they were about to discover who really ran things there. If you want to know how a woman who lost everything recovered her power, subscribe to Elderly Stories, because this story is just beginning, and what comes next no one expects. Mr. Henderson answered on the third ring. "Emily, what happened?" His voice sounded worried. He knew I had just buried my sister. "Lawyer, I need to see you tomorrow morning." "It is urgent," I said, without taking my eyes off Linda. She had completely lost that fake smile. Now she looked at me with narrowed eyes, calculating, dangerous. "Are you okay?" asked the lawyer. "No, but I am going to be," I replied and hung up. Linda crossed her arms. "I do not know what you are planning, Emily, but I remind you that this house belongs to Michael and I am his wife. So if you want to stay here, you are going to have to follow our rules." I gritted my teeth. I wanted to scream at her that I had bought this house with the sweat of 40 years cleaning other people's bathrooms, that every brick of those walls carried my sacrifice, that Michael was barely 25 years old when I gifted it to him, without asking for a single dollar in return. But I said nothing, because I had learned something in my 67 years of life. Words without power are just noise, and I needed to recover my power first. "Is that so?" I said simply. "I will stay in the utility room." Linda blinked, surprised. I think she expected a fight. She expected drama. She expected me to cry or beg. "Ah, well, good that you understand," she said, recovering a bit of her composure. "And another thing, there is no more space in the refrigerator for your things, so you will have to buy your own food and keep it in your room. We also cannot be sharing the kitchen at all hours. The doctor says I must avoid stress." I nodded slowly. "Sure, no problem." "Perfect. Then welcome to your new space," she said, and walked into the house, swaying her hips as if she had just won a battle. I stayed alone in that tiny room. I closed the door, and then, only then, did I allow myself to cry. I cried for my sister Grace. I cried for my husband, who had been dead for 10 years. I cried for the woman I had been, strong, hardworking, proud. I cried for my son Michael, who once hugged me and told me, "Mom, you are my hero." When had everything changed? I sat on that folding bed that smelled musty. I looked around. The walls had damp spots. The light bulb hung from a bare wire. There was not even a nail to hang clothes. But then I remembered something. I remembered my mother, who had raised 5 children alone after my father abandoned us. I remembered how she told us, "Girls, a woman is not strong because of what she has. She is strong because of what she is capable of rebuilding when everything is taken from her." I wiped my tears. I took out my cell phone and started taking photos of the room, of my belongings thrown in the garden, of everything. Because if life had taught me anything, it is that the truth always needs proof. That night, Michael arrived past 11. I heard his car park. I heard voices. I heard Linda's high-pitched laughter. I waited. I thought he would come to see me, that he would knock on the door of the utility room, that he would ask me how I was after my sister's funeral. But he did not come. At midnight, when I could not take it anymore, I left the room. I walked barefoot down the hallway of my house, feeling the cold tiles under my feet. I knocked on the master bedroom door. "Michael?" I called softly. Silence. "Michael, son, I need to talk to you." The door opened just a crack. My son poked his head out. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes, thinner than the last time I had seen him. "Mom, it is late," he whispered. "What is it? What is it?" I repeated, feeling my voice crack. "Michael, they threw all my things into the garden. They put me in the utility room. And you did not even tell me that Linda is pregnant." He lowered his gaze. "Mom, I was going to tell you, but you were in Ohio with Aunt Grace and I just buried my sister, Michael. I just said goodbye to the only family I had left of my generation, and I come home to find that I was treated like trash." "It is not personal, Mom," he said, rubbing his eyes. "It is just that we need the space. With the baby on the way, things have to change." "Change?" I looked at him in disbelief. "Michael, I bought this house. I gave it to you because I thought you would want me here, that we would be a family. And we are, Mom. But Linda, she is stressed. The pregnancy has been difficult. The doctor says we must not upset her. And me," I asked, feeling a lump in my throat, "do I not matter?" Michael sighed. "Of course you matter, Mom. But you have to understand, Linda is now my family, my priority. You yourself always told us that when one gets married, the wife comes first." Every word was like a stab wound. "Not like this, son," I whispered. "Not like this. Mom, please, we are tired. We will talk tomorrow, okay? Try to be understanding." And he closed the door. I stood in that hallway trembling. My son, my Michael, the boy whose diapers I changed, whom I taught to read, whom I hugged every time he cried. That son had just closed the door in my face. I returned to the utility room like a ghost, but I did not cry anymore, because something inside me had changed. The sadness was turning into something else, into determination, into silent fury, into the absolute certainty that this could not stay like this. I sat on that folding bed and opened the drawer of my nightstand. There I kept something that no one knew I had, an old notebook where I kept the record of all the household expenses since I had given it to Michael. I started turning the pages, and what I saw froze my blood, but it also gave me the first weapon I needed to fight. What I discovered that night changed everything, and the worst part is that they had no idea what was coming. The notebook trembled in my hands. It was 2 a.m. The utility room was in absolute silence. Only the dripping of a poorly closed faucet could be heard somewhere in the house. I turned the pages slowly, feeling my heart beat faster with every line I read. I had always been organized with money. I had to be. When you grow up poor, you learn that every dollar counts. So when I gave the house to Michael, I asked him for something very simple. "Son, I just want you to keep me informed of the important expenses, not for control, but because this house is your heritage, and heritage must be taken care of." He had accepted. During the first year, Michael showed me the receipts, told me about the repairs. We were a team, but since he married Linda, everything had changed. I looked at the numbers again, feeling the blood rushing to my head. In the last 8 months, transfers for enormous amounts had gone out of the family bank account. I had access to the bank statements because Michael had given me a debit card for emergencies, but I had never used it. I only checked the movements occasionally, and now, seeing everything together, reality hit me like a punch. $2,000 in January, living room remodeling. $2,500 in February, new furniture. $1,800 in March, no description. $3,000 in April. Trip to Cancun. $2,000 in May. Various purchases. $2,500 in June. Decoration. $3,500 in July, no description. $4,000 in August. Baby expenses. I added mentally. It was hard work because my hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the pencil. $21,000, almost $25,000 in 8 months. Where had that money come from? Michael earned well as an engineer, about $4,000 a month, but after paying for utilities, food, gas, there was not that much left. Definitely not enough to spend more than $2,000 a month on extras. Then I remembered something that froze my blood. When I gave the house to Michael, I also left him access to a savings account that I had maintained for years. It was money from my settlement when I retired, plus some savings I had gathered. Almost $30,000. I told him, "Son, This is for emergencies so that you never lack anything." With trembling hands, I searched through my papers until I found the last statement of that savings account. I opened it and my world collapsed. Current balance, $4,000. Of $30,000, only $4,000 remained. I felt the room spinning. I had to sit on the floor, leaning against the damp wall, trying to breathe. More than $25,000 gone. In less than a year, and me without knowing because I was busy taking care of my sick sister in Ohio, because I trusted my son, because never, ever did I think they would do something like this to me. But the worst was not the money. The worst was realizing that they had used me. They had kicked me out of my house. They had taken my space. They had humiliated me with the money that I myself had given them. I got up from the floor. My legs were trembling, but I walked to the window of the room. Outside, in the dark alley, I managed to see the light of the neighbor's kitchen. Mrs. Higgins. She always got up early to bake cookies and sell them before dawn. She was an older woman, like me, a widow, like me, a woman who had worked all her life to get her children ahead, and at that moment I needed to talk to someone. I put a robe over my nightgown and stealthily left the house. I walked the 20 yards that separated my house from hers. I tapped gently on her kitchen door. "Who is it?" asked Mrs. Higgins' voice. "It is me, Lucy, Emily." The door opened immediately. Mrs. Higgins looked at me with concern. She knew I had just returned from the funeral. "My friend, what are you doing awake at these hours? Come in, come in." I entered her small and warm kitchen. It smelled of fresh dough, hot oven, freshly made coffee. It smelled of home, of what my house used to be. "Coffee," she offered, pouring me a cup without waiting for an answer. I sat at her old and worn wooden table, and then I could not take it anymore. The tears started to fall. "Lucy," I whispered, "I need you to tell me the truth. Have you seen anything strange in my house these months?" She sat across from me, taking my hands in hers, rough and full of calluses from work. "My friend, I did not want to tell you anything because you were with your sick sister, but yes, I have seen things." "What things?" Mrs. Higgins sighed deeply. "Your daughter-in-law, Linda, she does not work, right?" "No, Michael says she does not need to work, that he earns enough." "Well, my friend, that girl changes cars every 2 weeks. It is not the same one. I have seen a red car, a white one, a gray one. And the bags she takes out of the car are from those expensive stores at the mall, the ones that cost hundreds of dollars." I felt a chill. "And Michael? I see your son leave very early and return very late. He looks tired, my friend, very tired, and thin, as if he were not eating well." "Anything else?" Mrs. Higgins hesitated. Then she spoke in a lower voice, like someone sharing a painful secret. "The other day, I saw that they sold your furniture, the antiques, those you had in the living room, the hand-carved wood ones. Some guys came in a truck and took them. Your daughter-in-law was there, smiling, counting bills. The coffee fell from my hands. The cup shattered against the floor. That furniture, that damn furniture. It was my mother's inheritance, furniture that was more than 70 years old, furniture that my grandmother had brought from Boston when she moved to the city, furniture that was worth a fortune, not for the money, but for the history. And Linda had sold it, as if it were trash." "How long ago was that?" I asked with a dead voice. 2 weeks, my friend, when you were in Ohio." I remained silent. Mrs. Higgins got up to sweep the broken cup pieces, but I barely heard her. In my head, the puzzle pieces were starting to come together. The missing money, the excessive expenses, the sold furniture, my clothes thrown in the garden, the utility room. Linda was not only kicking me out of the house, she was erasing me, erasing my history, my memories, my existence, and my son was letting her do it. I returned to the utility room when it was already dawning. I sat on that folding bed with the bank statements and my notebook on my lap, and I made a decision. If they wanted to play like this, I was also going to play, but with my own rules. Because they did not know something very important. They did not know that house was still in my name. Michael had never done the official change of ownership paperwork. I had only given him verbal permission to use it. They did not know that I had documents for absolutely everything. And they did not know that the woman sitting in that miserable room was not the same one who had arrived yesterday. That woman had broken. But from the ashes, something new was being made. Something stronger, something dangerous. When the sun finished rising, I already had a plan, and I swear that not even in their worst nightmares did they imagine what I was about to do to them. At 9 a.m. sharp, I was knocking on the door of Mr. Henderson's office. I had bathed in the patio sink because Linda had locked the main bathroom door so I wouldn't waste her hot water. I had put on my best black dress, the same one from the funeral. I had combed my hair carefully, gathering it in a firm bun, because I had learned something in all these years. When you are going to fight for what is yours, you have to look dignified. Mr. Henderson received me with a long and tight hug. "Emily, my dear, I am so sorry about your sister. Grace was a great woman." "Thank you, lawyer," I said, feeling the lump in my throat. But I did not come to talk about that. I came for something else. We sat in his office full of books and diplomas. He poured me a glass of water and waited patiently for me to start. I took out my notebook, the bank statements, the photographs of my things in the garden, everything, and I told him everything. While I spoke, I saw how Mr. Henderson's face was transforming, from concern to surprise, from surprise to indignation. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin. "Emily, this is serious, very serious. I know. Does your son know that you have access to those bank statements? He gave me the card years ago, but I think he forgot. I never used it." The lawyer nodded slowly, thinking. "Good. Let's go step by step. First, the house. Do you have the deed?" "Yes. Here it is." I took the document out of my purse. I had kept it like a treasure. He reviewed it carefully, turning every page with professional attention. And then he smiled. It was not a smile of joy. It was a strategist's smile. "Emily, do you know what we have here?" "What?" "The deed is still in your name. 100%. Michael never did the official change of ownership before a notary public." I felt my heart skip a beat. "But I gifted it to him?" "Yes, but legally. A real estate gift requires a formal act before a notary. You gave him permission to live there. You gave him what we call in-law accommodatum. Basically, you lent him the house. But the house is still yours." For the first time in days, I felt something akin to hope. That means that you can revoke that permission whenever you want. It is your property. They are, legally speaking, your tenants, without a contract, without permanent possession rights. I stayed silent, processing that information. "And the money?" I asked. "The $25,000 that disappeared." The lawyer reviewed the bank statements with a serious expression. "There is something very interesting here. Look at these transfers. Many are made with electronic signatures. Did you authorize these operations?" "No. Never." "And Michael has full access to the account?" "Yes, because I gave it to him when I lent him the house. I wanted him to have financial backing. But did you sign any document making him a co-holder of the account?" I thought carefully. "No, he only has a debit card linked, but the account is in my name." Mr. Henderson clasped his hands on the desk. "Emily, this is delicate. If Michael made those transfers without your explicit authorization, it could be considered misappropriation of assets. Technically, it is family fraud." The words fell on me like stones. Fraud. My own son. "I do not want to put him in jail, lawyer," I said quickly. "I just want things to be fair, and they will be. But you need to recover your negotiating power, and for that, we need to move some pieces." He took out a notepad and started writing. This is what we are going to do. First, right now, we are going to change all the passwords to your bank accounts. You will be the only one with access." I nodded. "Second, we are going to make an official inventory of everything that was in that house when you gave it to Michael, including those antique furniture pieces they sold. You are going to formally report the unauthorized sale of your assets. Can that be done?" "Of course, because you never removed yourself from the deed. Legally, everything in that house was still yours." I felt the strength returning to my body. "Third, we are going to formally notify Michael that he must vacate the property in 30 days, or alternatively, sign a formal lease agreement with monthly rent and very clear clauses." "Rent?" I asked, surprised. "To my own son." The lawyer looked at me with those wise eyes that had seen 1,000 cases like mine. "Emily, your son kicked you out of your house, put you in a utility room, spent your money without asking you, sold your mother's furniture. Do you really think they deserve to keep living there for free?" He was right, all the right in the world. "And if he refuses," I asked, "then we start the eviction process. And believe me, with the evidence you have, a judge will rule in your favor in less than 3 months." I stood looking out the office window. Outside, the city bustled with its normal traffic. People going to work, street vendors, daily life. And I was there, about to completely change the course of my life. "There is something else," said the lawyer, snapping me out of my thoughts. "Do you have other assets, properties, accounts?" I thought carefully. "Yes, I have a small apartment in the working class district. It was my husband's. We have rented it for years." "How much do you rent it for?" $800 a month. "And where does that money go?" "To a different bank account, one I opened years ago for the apartment's maintenance expenses. Michael does not know about that account." Mr. Henderson smiled broadly. "Perfect. Then you have your own income. That changes everything. It means you can live independently if you decide not to return to that house." The idea hit me like lightning. Live alone? At my 67 years? After a lifetime taking care of others? "Lawyer, I do not know if I can—" "Emily," he interrupted me with a firm but kind voice, "what is it that you want?" "Really? In the bottom of your heart, what do you want?" I remained silent. What did I want? I wanted my son to apologize. I wanted him to treat me with the respect I deserved. I wanted to recover my house, my space, my dignity. But more than anything, I wanted them to understand that I was not a hindrance. I was not an old piece of furniture that can be thrown away. I was not a nuisance to be gotten rid of. I was Emily Rodriguez, widow of Salazar, a woman who had worked 40 years without rest, a mother who had raised 3 children alone after becoming a widow, a woman who deserved respect. "I want justice," I said finally. "I want them to learn that you cannot treat people like that, especially your own mother." Mr. Henderson nodded. "Then we are going to give you exactly that. But Emily, I need you to be prepared. This is going to hurt. There will be tears, screams, begging. Michael is going to try to make you feel guilty. Linda is going to invent stories. They are going to say that you are a bad mother, that you are selfish, that you are crazy. They already tell me all that," I whispered. "But now it is going to be worse, because now you are fighting. And when you fight, people show their true face." I took a deep breath. "I am ready. Are you sure?" I thought of those pieces of furniture from my mother, sold like trash. I thought of the missing money. I thought of the damp and dark utility room. I thought of the door closed in my face. "Yes," I said with a firm voice. "I am sure." "Then let's begin." I left Mr. Henderson's office 3 hours later. In my purse, I carried new documents, changed passwords, a detailed action plan, and something more important. I carried hope. I walked through the downtown streets with a firm step. I bought a coffee and a sweet roll at a bakery. I sat on a park bench and ate quietly, watching people pass by. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled, because they thought they had defeated me. They thought they had broken me. They thought I was going to lower my head and accept my destiny as an old and invisible woman. But they were very, very wrong. I was not a defeated woman. I was a woman preparing for war, and they had no idea what was coming upon them. Michael and Linda were about to receive the surprise of their lives, and I was going to be there to see it all. I returned to the house around 6 in the afternoon. I was carrying 3 grocery bags. I had bought what was necessary to prepare food in the utility room: a small electric grill, disposable plates, a small pot, some basic groceries. If they wanted me to live as a tenant, I would do so, but with dignity. When I entered, I heard voices in the living room, many voices. I peeked in carefully. Linda was there, dressed up as if for a magazine. She was wearing a pale pink dress, which surely had cost hundreds of dollars. By her side were her parents, Mr. Arnold, a portly man with a mustache and an air of self-importance, and Mrs. Beatrice, a thin and elegant woman who always looked at me as if I were something stuck to her shoe. Michael was also there, dressed in a shirt and dress pants, uncomfortable, pulling at his shirt collar as if it were choking him. "Emily!" exclaimed Linda upon seeing me, with that singing and fake voice. "Good that you are here." I prepared a family dinner. My parents wanted to know our situation better, our situation, as if it were a problem that had to be solved. "Good afternoon," I greeted briefly, trying to pass towards the utility room. "Oh, no, no, no." Linda approached me, taking me by the arm firmly. "I already prepared everything. It would be rude if you did not join us. Besides, we need to talk about some important things." I had no choice. I sat at the dining table. My table, the one I had bought at an antique market 15 years ago. Linda served dinner with a perfect smile: roast chicken, red rice, salad. Everything looked delicious. Everything smelled of home. But the atmosphere was tense, like a guitar string about to snap. "Mrs. Emily," began Mr. Arnold, wiping his mouth with the napkin, "my daughter has told me that there have been some misunderstandings lately." "Misunderstandings?" I repeated, measuring every word. "Yes, well," intervened Mrs. Beatrice with a shrill voice. "Linda tells me that you feel displaced. But you have to understand, Mrs. Emily, that young people need their space, especially now with the baby on the way." I gripped the silverware tightly. "I understand perfectly the need for space," I said calmly. "What I do not understand is why they threw my belongings into the yard without asking me." "Oh, Emily, let's get over that." Linda made a dramatic gesture with her hand. "It was a simple communication error. I already apologized." Lie. She had never apologized to me. "And about the room," continued Mr. Arnold, "well, I think it is very generous of Michael and Linda to have given you a space. There are many people of your age who do not even have that. People of my age, as if I were a burden, a nuisance, a beggar thanking for crumbs." Michael said nothing. He just ate in silence, staring at his plate. "Besides," added Mrs. Beatrice, "at your age you should already be thinking about, well, making things easier for everyone. There are very nice residences for seniors, with nurses, activities, people your age. Wouldn't that be more comfortable?" There was the real reason for this dinner. They wanted to convince me to go to a nursing home. I looked at Michael. My son still did not look up. "Michael," I said firmly, "what do you think of this?" He finally looked up. His eyes were tired, empty. "Mom, I just want us all to be okay, for there to be peace." "Peace?" I repeated. "Are you asking me for peace while they plan to send me to a nursing home?" "It is not a nursing home, Emily," intervened Linda quickly. "They are luxury residences with gardens, with—" "I am not interested," I interrupted her. Silence fell on the table like a slab. Mr. Arnold cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Mrs. Emily, I understand that this is difficult for you, but you have to be realistic. Michael and Linda are building their family, and well, you have already fulfilled your cycle. You already raised your children. Now it is time for them to live their life. Every word was a slap, but the worst had not yet arrived. And about the financial issue, continued Mrs. Beatrice with the tone of someone talking business. Linda told me that there were some confusions with the bank accounts. There it was, the real reason for the dinner. They had realized that they could no longer withdraw money. There were no confusions, I said clearly. I simply changed the passwords to my accounts, as I should have done from the beginning. Linda dropped the silverware with a theatrical clatter. You see, Michael, I told you your mother was acting strange. Why would you do that, Emily? That money is for the family. That money is mine, I said, feeling my blood boil. Money that I saved for 40 years. Money that you spent without my permission. $25,000 in 8 months. What did you spend it on, Linda? Linda's face turned white, then red, then purple. How dare you? How dare I what? I got up from the chair. To ask for an accounting of my own money? To ask why you sold my mother's furniture without my authorization? To question why you treated me like trash when I arrived from my sister's funeral? Mom, please. Michael also got up with his hands extended. Do not do this. Not in front of them. Not in front of them. I looked at him in disbelief. Michael, they came to convince me to go to a nursing home, and you are worried about appearances? Mr. Arnold hit the table with his fist. Madam, you are being very rude. We came as a family to seek a civilized solution. Civilized? I let out a bitter laugh. Civilized is throwing my things in the yard? Civilized is selling my mother's belongings? Civilized is taking $25,000 from me without asking? That money was for the house, shouted Linda, no longer with any sweetness in her voice, to improve the house so that it is worth more. This house is already worth it, I said, pronouncing every word carefully, and it is still mine. The silence was absolute. Linda blinked, confused. What? You heard me. This house is in my name. We never did the official deed change. Michael lives here by my permission, a permission that I can revoke whenever I want. I saw how the color drained from Linda's face, how Mr. Arnold and Mrs. Beatrice looked at each other with panic, how Michael let himself fall into the chair with his head in his hands. No, it cannot be, whispered Linda. Michael told me the house was his. He promised me before we got married. Well, he lied to you, I said coldly, or simply never did the paperwork. The case is that this house is legally mine. Every brick, every window, every inch. Linda turned to Michael like a beast. Tell me it is not true. Michael, tell me this crazy old woman is lying. Michael raised his head slowly. He had tears in his eyes. It is true, he whispered. I never finished the paperwork. I thought that it was not urgent, that I would never what? Shouted Linda. That I would never find out? That I would never claim it? You told me this house was yours. I married you because you said you had assets. And there it was, the naked and raw truth. Linda had not married my son for love. She had married him for the house. For my house. Mrs. Beatrice got up indignant. This is unacceptable. Arnold, we are leaving. I am not going to stay to listen to these accusations. They are not accusations, I said calmly. They are facts. And I have documents that prove everything. Mr. Arnold pointed at me with his finger. You are a bad mother. A real mother would not do this to her son. Those words hurt. They hurt more than I could admit. But I was no longer going to let myself be hurt. A real mother teaches her children to respect, to value, to be honest. I did all that. If Michael did not learn, it is not my fault. It is his. I turned around and walked towards the utility room. Behind me, I heard the chaos. Linda crying hysterically, Mrs. Beatrice shouting insults, Mr. Arnold demanding explanations, Michael trying to calm everyone down. I closed the room door and leaned against it, trembling. It had been the hardest confrontation of my life, but also the most necessary, and it was just the beginning. That night, near 11, I heard violent knocks on the room door. "Mom, open up. We have to talk." It was Michael. I did not open. "Mom, please." Linda is very upset. The doctor said she could not get stressed for the baby. I continued without opening. "What do you want me to do? Ask for forgiveness on my knees? Cry? Tell me what you want and I will do it, but please do not take the house from us." I opened the door suddenly. Michael was undone. Hair disheveled, red eyes, wrinkled shirt, and for the first time I did not feel pity. I felt disappointment. "Michael," I said with a calm voice, "I am going to tell you something, and I want you to listen well. I never wanted to take anything from you. I gave you this house out of love. I gave you my money out of generosity. I gave you my space for family. I know, Mom, I know, but you treated me like trash. You humiliated me, you robbed me, you lied to me. And when I arrived broken from my sister's funeral, you threw me into the street. It was Linda's mistake. I did not know that. You knew," I raised my voice. "You knew and you did nothing. You closed the door in my face. You told me she was your priority. You told me to understand. It is just, she is my wife, Mom. I have to support her. And what am I? Trash? A hindrance that had to be gotten rid of?" Michael dropped to his knees in front of me. "Forgive me," he sobbed. "Forgive me, Mom. I was a coward. I was a bad son. But I beg you, do not leave us on the street." I looked at him there, kneeling, crying, and something inside me broke, but not from pain, from clarity. This was no longer my boy. This was a man who had chosen and had to live with the consequences of his choices. "I am not going to leave you on the street," I said finally, "but things are going to change, radically. Tomorrow you come with me to Mr. Henderson's office, and we are going to sign a contract with clear rules. Whatever you say, Mom, whatever you say. And Linda is going to pay me back every dollar she spent of my money. Either she pays it or you pay it. But it is going to be paid." Michael nodded desperately. Yes, whatever. "Now leave. I am tired." He got up slowly. Before leaving, he looked at me with beaten puppy eyes. "Do you hate me, Mom?" The question took me by surprise. "No, Michael," I said with sadness. "I do not hate you, but I do not recognize you either. The son I raised would never have done this to me." I closed the door, and for the first time in days I slept soundly, because I knew I had won the first battle. But the war was just beginning. The next morning, Michael and I went to the lawyer's office, and what happened there changed everything forever. Michael arrived on time at Mr. Henderson's office, but he did not come alone. Linda came with him, clinging to his arm like a tick. She wore dark glasses that covered half her face and a handkerchief in her hand, ready for the drama. When they saw me sitting in the waiting room, Linda stopped dead. "Is she coming?" she whispered to Michael, although loud enough for me to hear. "It is her lawyer, Linda. And her money," replied Michael with a tired voice. Mr. Henderson received us in his office. His face was professional, serious, impenetrable. "Good morning, Mrs. Emily, Mr. Michael, Mrs. Linda. Please, take a seat." We sat down. Linda kept looking around with suspicion, like a caged animal looking for the exit. "Good," began the lawyer. "I called you here because there are legal matters that we need to resolve formally. First of all, we are going to clarify the situation of the property." He put a copy of the house deed on the desk. As you can see here, the house located on Jacaranda Street, number 247, is registered in the name of Mrs. Emily Rodriguez, widow of Salazar, 100%. There is no other owner. Linda took off her glasses abruptly. "That is impossible. Michael told me that—" "What Michael may have told you is irrelevant," interrupted the lawyer with a sharp tone. "The legal facts are these. Mrs. Emily is the sole owner. You live there by verbal permission, what in legal terms is called commoditum. But I am her daughter-in-law. It is my house too," insisted Linda, with a voice increasingly shrill. "No, madam, it is not. Not an inch of that property is in your name." I saw how Linda turned pale, how her hand squeezed the handkerchief until her knuckles turned white. Michael said with a trembling voice, "Is this true?" My son lowered his head. "Yes. And when did you plan to tell me? I thought we were going to fix the paperwork after the wedding, but with work and—" "I do not care about your excuses," shouted Linda, jumping up. "You told me you had your own house. You promised me." "Linda, calm down, please. Think of the baby," begged Michael. "The baby, of course. The baby who is going to be born in a house that is not even yours." Mr. Henderson tapped the desk gently. "Madam, please sit down. There are more topics to discuss." Linda let herself fall into the chair, breathing heavily. "Second topic," continued the lawyer, "the unauthorized withdrawals from Mrs. Emily's bank accounts. He put the bank statements I had given him on the desk. In the last 8 months, a total of $25,000 has gone out of these accounts. Mrs. Emily never authorized these transactions. I did not take that money," defended Michael immediately. "The transfers were made with the card that is in your name," said the lawyer. "That makes you legally responsible. But it was Linda who used the card. I lent it to her because she said she needed—" "What?" Linda looked at him with wide eyes. "Now you are going to blame me. You were the one who bought the new furniture, who organized the trip to Cancun, who spent $3,000 on clothes. Because you told me we had money, that your mom had given you all that. I said she lent it to us, not that she gave it to you. Seeing them fight like that should have given me satisfaction, but it only gave me sadness." "Enough," I said with a firm voice. "Wait a minute." The two shut up immediately. "I do not care who spent the money. You two are responsible, and that money is going to be returned, all of it down to the last dollar." "Mom, we do not have $25,000, said Michael with desperation. "My salary barely covers—" "Then you are going to pay it in installments, with interest. The lawyer is going to make a payment plan." "Interest?" Linda let out a hysterical laugh. "You are going to charge interest to your own son. I am going to charge interest to the person who stole my money, yes. It is not theft, it is family money." "It was my retirement money," I said, feeling my voice crack. "Money I earned cleaning bathrooms and offices for 40 years. Money I was going to use for my medical expenses when I got older. And you spent it on trips and clothes." Linda opened her mouth to respond, but the words did not come out. "There is one more topic," continued Mr. Henderson. "The antique furniture that was sold without authorization, according to Mrs. Emily. They were pieces more than 70 years old. Family inheritance. How much did you sell them for?" Absolute silence. "How much?" I repeated. Michael swallowed hard. $800. I felt the world stop. $800? I whispered. "You sold my mother's furniture? Pieces of hand-carved mahogany, furniture that was worth more than $5,000. For $800? The buyer said they were very old, that they needed restoration," murmured Michael. "Because they were antiques," I exploded, getting up from the chair. "That is why they were worth so much. That furniture was the last inheritance I had left from my mother." "Emily, what does it matter now?" said Linda with weariness. "They were just old furniture. Something inside me broke, but not from sadness, from fury." I approached Linda slowly. She leaned back in her chair, scared. "Just old furniture?" I said with a dangerously low voice. "Just old furniture? That furniture was brought by my grandmother from Boston in a cargo truck in 1952. My mother polished it every Sunday after Mass. There I taught Michael to read. There we dined as a family for 30 years. I did not know," stuttered Linda. "You did not know because you never asked. Because for you, everything that is not new and expensive is worth nothing. Just like me. An old woman who is useless, a burden to be gotten rid of. It is not like that." "No?" I took out my cell phone and showed them the photographs I had taken the day I arrived from the funeral. Look at this. Look, my things thrown in the garden. My photos, my clothes, the memories of my dead husband. Everything thrown like trash. Linda looked at the photos and paled. I thought that they were things you no longer used. And that is why you threw them out without asking me, without waiting for me to return from my sister's funeral? It is just that we needed space for the baby. You had the whole house, I shouted. A 2-story house with 4 bedrooms. What did you need my room for? What did you need to humiliate me for? Linda put her hands to her face and began to cry, but she did not move me anymore. I had seen too much. I had suffered too much. Lawyer, I said, turning to him, I want them out of my house. I want to start the eviction process. No, shouted Michael, jumping up. Mom, please, we cannot leave. We have nowhere to go. Linda is pregnant. You should have thought about that before treating me the way you did. Mrs. Emily, intervened the lawyer. Legally, I can start the eviction today. In 30 days, they have to vacate. That leaves us on the street, sobbed Linda, with a baby on the way. What kind of grandmother are you? Those words hit me like a punch. What kind of grandmother was I? One who had lost everything. One who had been betrayed. One who was tired of being trampled on. But then I looked at Linda. I really looked at her, and I saw genuine fear in her eyes. I saw a young and stupid woman who had made terrible mistakes, but who was pregnant. Who was going to bring my grandchild into the world? I sighed deeply. I am not going to leave you on the street, I said finally, but this is what is going to happen. You are going to sign a formal lease agreement. You are going to pay $700 a month in rent. You are going to pay me back the $25,000 in payments of $600 a month for 4 years. And if you miss a single month, I evict you without hesitation. $700 rent plus $600 debt. That is $1,300 a month, exclaimed Michael. We won't make it. Then Linda is going to have to work. Like the rest of the world, I am pregnant. And I worked until the 8th month of pregnancy with Michael, cleaning floors on my knees. So do not come to me with excuses. Linda looked at me with pure hate. You will regret this, she hissed. When your grandchild is born, you are not going to know him. We are not going to let you get close. You are going to die alone and bitter. Her words hurt, but they were no longer going to control me. If that is my cross, I carry it, I replied, but I am not going to be a slave in my own house ever again. Mr. Henderson prepared the documents right there. Michael signed them with trembling hands. Linda refused to sign at first, but Michael forced her. When we left the office, they left in their car without saying a word to me. I stayed standing on the sidewalk, breathing the fresh morning air. I had won, but I did not feel victorious. I felt empty, destroyed, because I had recovered my house, but I had lost my son, and I did not know if I could ever forgive myself for that. But the story does not end there, because 3 days later, something happened that changed everything again, and this time it was worse than I ever imagined. 3 days after signing the contract, I woke up in the utility room with a pain in my chest that was not normal. It was not sadness. It was something physical, real, terrifying. A pressure that squeezed me as if someone were crushing my heart with their hands. I tried to get out of bed, but my legs did not respond. The air did not reach my lungs. The room began to spin. Help, I whispered, but my voice barely came out. I tried to hit the wall so someone would hear me, once, twice. On the 3rd time, my arm fell without strength. Everything went black. I woke up in a hospital bed. The fluorescent lights hurt my eyes. There was a constant beeping of a machine next to me. I felt a needle stuck in my arm connected to an IV bag. She is awake. I heard a woman's voice. A nurse approached to check on me, taking my blood pressure and pulse. How do you feel, Mrs. Emily? What? What happened? I managed to say with a raspy voice. You had a mild heart attack. Your neighbor found you unconscious and called the ambulance. You are very lucky to be alive. Mrs. Higgins, my guardian angel. How long? You've been here for 8 hours. We already notified your family. 2 of your children are outside. They arrived an hour ago from Chicago and Houston. 2 children? Michael? I asked. The nurse hesitated for a moment. Your son, Michael, was notified 7 hours ago. He has not come. Those words hurt more than the heart attack. My son. The one who lived 20 minutes from the hospital. He had not come. But my other children, Jessica and David, who lived hundreds of miles away, had dropped everything to arrive. I want to see them, I said. Of course. Just a moment, okay? The doctor says you must avoid strong emotions. The nurse left, and seconds later they entered like hurricanes. Jessica, my middle daughter, 38 years old, a lawyer, always so serious and organized. But now she had red and swollen eyes from crying. David, my youngest son, 35 years old, an engineer like Michael, but with a completely different heart. He had messy hair and his shirt buttoned wrong, as if he had dressed in a rush. Mom! Jessica ran to me and hugged me carefully, as if I were made of glass. Thank God, we thought that we were going to lose you. David took my free hand and squeezed it tight. What happened, Mom? Mrs. Higgins called us crying, saying she found you passed out on the floor. Why didn't you tell us you were unwell? I didn't want to worry you, I whispered. Worry us? Jessica wiped her tears with rage. You almost died, Mom. The doctor says it was a miracle Mrs. Higgins found you when she did. 10 minutes more and... She didn't finish the sentence. It wasn't necessary. But we don't understand, said David, sitting on the edge of the bed. The doctor says this was caused by extreme stress. What is happening? Why so much stress? I looked at both of them. My children. So different from Michael in so many ways. And I told them everything. I told them about my arrival from the funeral, my things thrown in the yard, the utility room, Linda, the missing money, the sold furniture, everything. As I spoke, I saw my children's expressions change, from concern to disbelief, from disbelief to horror, from horror to absolute fury. What? Shouted Jessica, jumping up. Michael did what? I am going to kill him. David also got up. I'm going to go right now, and I am going to... David, no. I stopped him with the little strength I had. It is already handled. We already signed a contract with Mr. Henderson. Does Mr. Henderson know about this? Asked Jessica. Yes. He is helping me. Jessica took out her cell phone immediately. I am going to call Michael right now. Wait. I tried to stop her, but she was already dialing. We waited. 1, 2, 3 rings. Voicemail. Jessica called again. Voicemail again. He is declining my calls, she said with a dangerous voice. That damn coward is declining my calls. David also tried. Same result. Mom, said Jessica, putting away the cell phone with sharp movements. When you get out of here, you are coming with me to Chicago. I cannot... Yes, you can. And you are going to. I am not going to allow you to keep living in those conditions. I no longer live in the utility room. I rented a small apartment with the money from the rents of the building in the working-class district. What building? Asked David, confused. One I inherited from your father. We have rented it for years. You didn't know because I always kept that money for emergencies. My children looked at each other. Mom, said David slowly, how many more secrets do you have? They are not secrets. They are, precautions. One learns to take care of herself when she is a widow. Jessica sat back down next to me, taking my hand with both of hers. Mom, listen to me well. Michael has no right to treat you like that. I don't care if he is my brother. What he did is unforgivable. He is married. He has to choose his wife. Choosing his wife does not mean humiliating his mother, exploded David. I am married, Mom. I have 2 children. And Andrea would never ask me to treat you like that. Never. And if she did? I asked in a low voice. Then she wouldn't be the woman I want to be with, he replied without hesitation. A good wife does not make you choose between her and your family. A good wife integrates, does not disintegrate. Those words made me cry. because David was right. A good partner does not force you to abandon your own. "Mom," said Jessica with a firm voice, "I need you to understand something. You gave us everything. You worked until you broke so we could study. You paid for our college. You helped us when we needed it. Now it is our turn to take care of you. I don't want to be a burden." "You are not a burden," shouted Jessica. "You are our mother, and the fact that you think you can be a burden breaks my heart." David approached and hugged us both. "Mom, when you get out of here, we are going to fix everything. I am going to speak personally with Michael, and if he does not rectify, if he does not apologize on his knees, then I am also going to disown him as a brother. I don't want you to fight because of me. It is not because of you, Mom. It is because of what is right, and what Michael did is wrong." At that moment, the doctor entered, an older man with glasses and a serious expression. "Family Salazar, I need to speak with you about Mrs. Emily's condition." We all tensed up. "The heart attack was caused by acute and prolonged stress. Your mother's blood pressure was at dangerous levels. If we do not make drastic changes in her lifestyle, the next one is not going to be mild. It is going to be a complete heart attack, and probably fatal." The words fell like stones. "What does she need?" asked Jessica immediately. "First, completely eliminate sources of stress. Second, daily medication to control blood pressure. Third, psychological therapy, because the damage is not only physical, it is also emotional. And fourth, a real support network. Family that takes care of her, not destroys her." David and Jessica nodded. "She will have it all," said David. "I give you my word." The doctor looked directly at me. "Mrs. Emily, what causes you the most stress at this moment?" The question took me by surprise. I thought of Michael, of Linda, of the utility room, of the sold furniture, of the humiliation. "My oldest son," I said finally, "and the situation with him. Then, by medical prescription, I recommend that you cut contact temporarily with that situation, at least for 3 months. You need to heal, and you cannot heal if you keep getting hurt." Those words were like a liberation. A doctor was giving me permission to walk away, to take care of myself, to set boundaries, without guilt. "I will do it," I said. Jessica squeezed my hand. "And we will be with you every step." I left the hospital 2 days later. Jessica stayed with me in a nearby hotel. David had to return to Houston for work, but he called 3 times a day. Michael never appeared. Not a call, not a message, nothing. But I no longer expected anything from him, because I had discovered something important in that hospital bed. I had been looking for love in the wrong place. Michael had shown who he was, and I had to accept it. But Jessica and David, they showed me that I was not alone, that I still had family, real family. A week later, I was sitting in the small apartment I had rented with the rent money. It was a modest place. A single room, small kitchen, full bathroom, but it was mine. Clean, orderly, at peace. Jessica helped me decorate it. We bought plants, new curtains, a comfortable rocking chair to read. And for the first time in months, I felt at home. I was drinking coffee at the little table by the window when my cell phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello? Mrs. Emily? This is Mr. Henderson. Lawyer, good morning. I have news. Michael just deposited the first payment. $1,300, $700 for rent, and $600 for the debt." I stayed silent, processing. "Really?" "Yes. And there is something else. Your daughter-in-law, Linda, got a job. In a department store, perfume saleswoman. I couldn't help a small smile. Linda, the one who had never worked a day in her life, now selling perfumes. Life has strange ways of teaching lessons. Thank you for letting me know, lawyer. There is something else, Emily. Michael called the office. He asked for you. He says he needs to speak with you. I am not ready for that, I said immediately. I understand. I just wanted you to know. I hung up and stared out the window. Outside, life went on. People walking, children playing, vendors shouting their products, and I was there, alive, breathing, healing. I had lost a lot, but I had also gained something invaluable. I had gained my dignity back, and no one ever again was going to take it from me. But Michael was not going to give up so easily, and what he did next forced me to make the most difficult decision of my life. 2 weeks after leaving the hospital, I was watering the plants on my small balcony when I heard knocks on the door. Strong, desperate, persistent. Mom, please, I know you are there." It was Michael. I stood paralyzed, with the watering can still in my hand. "Mom, we have to talk, please, it is important." I didn't want to open. The doctor had told me to avoid stress. Jessica had made me promise not to see Michael until I was stronger, but he was my son, and as much as he had hurt me, he was still my son. I opened the door just a crack. Michael was destroyed. He had lost at least 20 pounds. He had deep circles under his eyes. His clothes hung from his body as if they were 2 sizes too big. He looked like a ghost of himself. "What do you want, Michael?" I asked with a neutral voice. "I need to talk to you, please." 5 minutes. The doctor forbade me stressful situations. I know, Mrs. Higgins told me. "Mom, I didn't know you were so bad. If you had known, you were notified 7 hours before your siblings, and you didn't go." Those words hit him like a slap. I saw his eyes fill with tears. "Linda didn't let me go. She said it was a trick of yours to manipulate me, that you wanted to play the victim. I believed her. And when I realized my mistake, you had already left the hospital, and I didn't know where you were. Jessica and David found me without a problem, because they are better children than me," he said with a broken voice. "Mom, please, just let me in for 5 minutes. I need to tell you something important." Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Michael entered and looked around the small apartment. I saw shame on his face, pain, regret. "It is nice," he said in a low voice. "Small but cozy. It is what I can afford with the rents from your father's building." He sat on the sofa carefully, as if he were afraid of breaking something. "Mom, I came to tell you that you were right, about everything." I looked at him with suspicion. "Linda is destroying me," he continued. "Since we signed the contract and she had to work, she has become unbearable. She spends her time complaining, saying that everything is my fault, that I promised her a life and gave her another. And she is right, isn't she?" I said without emotion. "You promised her a house that wasn't yours. I know." He put his hands to his face. "I know, and it was my mistake. A huge mistake. But Mom, I am trapped. I have a baby on the way. I cannot divorce now. Did you come to tell me that? To cry about your marital problems? No, I came to—" He took a deep breath. "I came to ask for your forgiveness, on my knees if necessary, for everything, for throwing your things away, for the utility room, for the money, for Grandma's furniture, for closing the door in your face, for not going to the hospital, for being the worst son in the world." Tears ran down his cheeks, and I felt nothing. That was the most terrifying thing, that my own son was crying in front of me and I didn't feel the impulse to comfort him. "Michael," I said slowly, "does Linda know you are here?" He shook his head. "I escaped while she was working. If she finds out, she is going to go crazy. Why? Why? Because she is still angry with you. She says you ruined our lives, that you took everything from us." I let out a bitter laugh. "I didn't take anything from you. I set boundaries. There is a difference. I know, Mom, but she doesn't see it that way. And how do you see it?" Michael looked up at me. "I see that I lost my mother for a woman who doesn't even respect me, who screams at me, who blames me for everything, who threatens to take my son away if I don't do what she says. Then divorce her." I said simply. "I cannot. We are expecting a baby, Michael." "I was 7 months pregnant with David when your father died. I had to go on alone. If you can work, you can support your child. with or without Linda. But, no buts. Either you stay with her and accept the consequences, or you separate and build a new life. But you cannot go on like this, destroying yourself, and you cannot come here expecting me to solve your life." Michael remained silent for a long time. "Don't you love me anymore, Mom?" he asked with a small child's voice. That question broke my heart. "I will always love you, Michael. You are my son. I carried you in my womb. I raised you. I taught you to walk, to speak, to read. But I no longer trust you, and I am not sure if one day I will be able to do it again. What do I have to do?" he begged. "Tell me what I have to do to regain your trust." "Grow up," I said simply. "Stop being a child who expects his mom to solve everything. Make decisions like an adult. Defend what is right, even if it is difficult. And if I do, if I change, will you forgive me?" "I don't know, Michael. Honestly, I don't know." He got up slowly from the sofa. He seemed older than he was, tired, defeated. "Then I only have to prove it to you with actions," he said, "no longer with words." He walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned one last time. "When the baby is born, would you come to meet him?" The question caught me off guard. If you invite me for real, if they treat me with respect, if Linda accepts my presence without drama, then yes, I will go. Thank you, Mom. And he left. I stood in the middle of the apartment, trembling. Jessica was right. Seeing him had been stressful, but also necessary because Michael needed to hear the truth, and I needed to tell him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept turning the conversation over in my mind. Michael's words, his destroyed face. Had I been too harsh, too cold, or was I simply protecting my heart from more damage? At 2 a.m, my cell phone rang. It was Jessica. "Mom, are you awake?" "Yes, daughter. What is it?" "I just received a very strange call from a woman who claims to be Linda's mother." My blood froze. "Mrs. Beatrice? What did she want?" "She wants to meet with you. She says it is urgent, that she has information you need to know about Linda and Michael." "Information? What kind of information?" "She didn't want to tell me over the phone, just that it is serious and that it could change everything." My mind started racing. Why would Linda's mother want to speak with me after how she treated me at that horrible dinner? "What do you think?" I asked Jessica. "I think you should listen to her, but not alone. I am going with you. Can you come from Chicago? I am already on my way. I left 2 hours ago. I arrive tomorrow afternoon. My daughter, always protecting me. Thank you, Jessica. That is what we are here for, Mom. No one is going to hurt you again, not while I breathe." The next day, Jessica and I met Mrs. Beatrice in a downtown coffee shop. She arrived on time but looked different from the arrogant and elegant woman I had met. Her hair was unkempt, deep circles under her eyes. Her hands trembled while she held her purse. "Thank you for coming," she said with a broken voice. "What is it that you want, Mrs. Beatrice?" asked Jessica with a professional and cold tone. Mrs. Beatrice took an envelope out of her purse. She put it on the table. "I need you to know the truth about my daughter, about what she really is." I opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were documents. Many documents. Bank statements, photographs, printed messages. And what I saw there left me breathless. Because Linda was not just a manipulative and capricious woman. She was something much, much worse. And what I was about to discover was going to change everything. Absolutely everything. What Mrs. Beatrice revealed to me that afternoon was so shocking that I couldn't believe it. And when Michael found out, his world was going to collapse completely. My hands trembled as I reviewed the documents. Credit card statements I didn't know, all in Linda's name, all with huge debts. $12,000. I read aloud, feeling my mouth go dry. And credit cards. How is it possible? Mrs. Beatrice had red eyes. She looked years older than the last time I had seen her. My daughter is addicted to shopping, a compulsive shopper. She has been like this since she was 20. Her father and I have paid her debts 5 times. 5. And she always falls back. Jessica took the documents and reviewed them with a lawyer's eye. These cards were taken out 3 years ago, long before she married Michael. Exactly, agreed Mrs. Beatrice. Linda met Michael on a dating app. When she found out he had a house, well, she saw the perfect opportunity. Wait, I interrupted her, feeling nauseous. Are you telling me that my daughter-in-law married my son for interest? Not only that, my daughter lied to him about the pregnancy. The world stopped. What? I whispered. Mrs. Beatrice took more papers out of the envelope. Medical studies, prescriptions, printed text messages. Linda cannot have children. She has had a problem with her uterus since she was 18. We have known since then. The doctors were clear. Natural pregnancy is impossible. Jessica and I looked at each other with horror, but she is pregnant. We saw her at dinner. She mentioned the doctor. She said she couldn't get stressed. She is lying, said Mrs. Beatrice with a broken voice. There is no pregnancy. There never was. Check these messages. She passed me her cell phone. They were WhatsApp conversations between her and Linda. Linda? I already told Michael I am pregnant. He was happy. Mrs. Beatrice. Linda, you cannot do this. When he finds out you lied, Linda, he isn't going to find out. I am going to say I lost it in a few months, but by then I will be well installed in the house. Mrs. Beatrice, this is wrong, very wrong. Linda, you never support me, always criticizing. That is why I am in this situation. I need this house, Mom. I need to get out of debt or they are going to sue me. I felt like I was lacking air. Michael knows nothing of this? Nothing. Linda is very good at lying. She always has been. She bought maternity clothes. She searches for pregnancy symptoms on the internet to fake nausea. She even bought positive pregnancy tests on the internet to show him photographs. Why are you telling me this? I asked. You are her mother. Why betray your own daughter? Mrs. Beatrice put her hands to her face and began to cry. Because I can't take it anymore. I can no longer watch how she destroys lives. She has scammed 3 men before Michael. Always the same story. They fall in love, she invents pregnancies, takes money, and when she can no longer sustain the lie, she disappears. My God, I whispered. But this time was different. This time she found someone who had a house and decided to stay. And when you appeared as an obstacle, well, I saw her do horrible things. Throw your belongings, sell your furniture, humiliate you. And you said nothing? Asked Jessica with a hard voice. I was afraid, shouted Mrs. Beatrice. My daughter can be dangerous. She manipulates, lies, threatens. She told me that if I said anything to Michael, she would cut me out of her life forever. And she is my only daughter, my only baby. But she is no longer a baby, I said with a firm voice. She is an adult woman who is committing fraud, and you are an accomplice by remaining silent. Mrs. Beatrice nodded through tears. I know. That is why I am here. Because yesterday, Linda came to ask me for more money. $3,000. She says she needs to get fake pregnancy studies to keep deceiving Michael, and I can no longer go on with this. I cannot. Jessica took all the documents and stored them carefully. I am going to need certified copies of all this, and I need you to be willing to testify if necessary. Whatever, said Mrs. Beatrice. I just want this to end before my daughter ruins more lives. Where is your husband in all this? I asked. Arnold knows nothing. He believes Linda finally settled down. If he finds out about this, I don't know what he would do. He is so proud of her. Well, he is going to have to find out, said Jessica, because this is serious. Very serious. I stared at the documents on the table. My son, my poor Michael, deceived, manipulated, destroyed by a woman who never loved him, who only saw an opportunity in him. I have to tell him, I said. Michael has to know the truth. Are you sure, Mom? Asked Jessica. This is going to destroy him. He's already destroyed. But at least if he knows the truth, he can start rebuilding on real foundations, not on lies. Mrs. Beatrice took my hands. Thank you. Thank you for being more of a mother than me, for protecting your son even when he didn't protect you. Her words hurt me, because they were right. I was still a mother, despite everything. That same afternoon, I dialed Michael's number. He answered on the second ring. Mom. Michael. I need you to come to my apartment. Now. It is urgent. Are you okay? Did something happen to you? I am fine. But we need to talk. Bring Linda with you. Linda? But Mom. Michael, I said with a firm voice. Either you both come in an hour or I go there. And believe me, you don't want this conversation to be in your house. It is okay. We are on our way. I hung up and looked at Jessica. Are you ready? She asked. No, but it has to be done. 40 minutes later, they knocked on the door. I opened. Michael was there, nervous, pulling at his shirt collar. Beside him, Linda with a grumpy face and tight maternity clothes. I hope this is important, Emily, said Linda with a bored tone. I had to ask for permission at work. Come in, I said simply. They entered. They sat on the sofa. Jessica was standing next to me with a folder in her hands. What is happening? Asked Michael. Why is Jessica here? Because what I am going to tell you is very serious, and you need family support. I saw how Linda's face changed, from boredom to alert. Serious? She asked with a high-pitched voice. What are you talking about? I'm talking about lies, I said, looking directly at her. About fraud. About manipulation. I don't know what. Your mother came to see me, I interrupted her, and she told me everything. I saw the color drain from Linda's face. My mom? What did she say? Jessica opened the folder and started taking out documents. She said you are not pregnant, that you never were, that you have a medical problem that prevents you from having children, and that you lied to Michael to keep the house. The silence was deafening. Michael stood up slowly from the sofa. What? His voice came out as a whisper. What did you say? She is lying, shouted Linda. My mom is crazy. She is inventing things because she is jealous that I am happy. Here are the medical documents, said Jessica, showing them. Certified, with your full name, diagnosis. Bicornuate uterus with severe adhesions, impossibility of natural pregnancy. Those are old, from years ago. Now I am better. The date is from 6 months ago, said Jessica coldly, when you were already married to Michael. And here is the conversation with your mother where you admit you are lying about the pregnancy. She showed him the cell phone with the messages. Michael took it with trembling hands. He read, once, twice, 3 times, and then he let himself fall onto the sofa with his head in his hands. No, it cannot be, he whispered. Michael, my love, listen to me. Linda knelt in front of him. I am pregnant, I swear. Those documents are fake. Your mom invented them to separate us. Why would your own mother give me this information then? I asked. Because she hates me. Because she has always hated me. Linda, said Michael with a dead voice looking up, show me pregnancy studies, recent, from a real doctor with your name. Linda opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I have them at home. Lie, said Jessica. Your mother also told us you bought positive pregnancy tests online, that everything has been a setup from the beginning. No, I am pregnant. I am. Then let's go to the hospital right now, said Michael, getting up. Now. And you get an ultrasound. In front of me. Linda froze. It is late. The hospitals. Emergency hospitals are open 24 hours, said Jessica. Let's go. Now. No, I am not going. I don't have to prove anything to you. And there it was. The wordless confession. Michael looked at her with eyes full of tears. Tell me the truth, he said with a broken voice. Please, just tell me the truth. Linda remained silent for a long time, and then, slowly, she began to cry. "I am not pregnant," she whispered. "I never was." The scream of pain that came out of Michael broke my soul. He put his hands to his head, pulling his hair, walking in circles like a caged animal. "Why?" he shouted. "Why did you do this to me? Because I needed the house. Because I have debts. Because I was desperate. And what about me? Did I not matter? My feelings? My life? It was going to work. I was going to tell you I lost it in a few months, and that's it. No one had to get hurt. You destroyed me." Michael was weeping loudly. "I left my mother. I allowed you to humiliate her. I spent all my money. And all for a lie?" Linda tried to approach him, but Michael recoiled as if she were poison. "Don't touch me. Never touch me again. Michael, please. Get out," he roared. "Get out of here. I don't want to see you ever again." Linda looked at me with pure hate. "This is your fault," she hissed. "You ruined everything. We could have been happy. Happiness built on lies is not happiness," I said calmly. "It is just an illusion waiting to collapse." Linda took her purse and left the apartment, slamming the door. Michael let himself fall to the floor, crying like a small child. I approached slowly. I sat on the floor next to him, and for the first time in months, I hugged him. My son, my poor, broken son. "I am sorry, Mom. I am sorry. I am so sorry. You were right. About everything. And I was an idiot. An idiot who hurt you for someone who was worth nothing." "Shh." I rocked him gently. "It's over. It's over. Will you be able to forgive me one day?" "I already forgave you, son," I said, feeling my own tears fall, "from the moment you decided to come looking for the truth." We stayed like that, on the floor of my small apartment, crying together. Because sometimes, to be able to rebuild, you first have to collapse completely. And my son had just hit rock bottom. But I was going to be there to help him get up, because that is what mothers do. They forgive. They heal. They rebuild. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. The truth had come to light. But there was still one last decision to make. One that would change our lives forever. The following days were a whirlwind. Michael initiated the divorce immediately. With the evidence we had, the fake pregnancy fraud, the hidden debts, the messages confessing the manipulation, the lawyer said it would be quick and decisive. Linda tried to fight. She demanded financial compensation. She threatened to sue for emotional damage. She even invented that Michael had mistreated her. But every lie crumbled before the evidence. Mrs. Beatrice, keeping her word, testified against her own daughter. It was heartbreaking to see her in court, crying while she told the truth. Mr. Arnold, upon finding out everything, suffered a nervous breakdown. He spent 3 days in the hospital. When he got out, he forbade Linda from returning to his house. Linda was left alone. No house, no husband, no family. And although part of me felt pity, another part, the part that had been humiliated and destroyed, knew that this was justice. Not revenge, justice, the natural consequences of her actions. 2 months after the divorce, Michael and I were sitting in my apartment drinking coffee. He had moved into a small studio near his work. He was thinner still, but his eyes had a clarity I hadn't seen in years. "Mom," he said, stirring sugar into his coffee, "I have been thinking a lot, about everything, about how we got here." "And?" I asked, and I realized something. I didn't marry Linda for love. I married for fear. Fear of what? Of being alone, of not being enough. When Dad died, I was barely 15, and I saw you work until you broke to get us ahead. I always wanted to prove to you that it was worth it, that your sacrifice was worth it. His voice cracked. So when Linda appeared, pretty, sure of herself, interested in me, I thought it was my opportunity to have the perfect family, to show you that I had made it. Michael, but I did it all wrong, he continued. Instead of protecting you, I hurt you. Instead of honoring your sacrifice, I trampled on it. I betrayed everything you taught me to impress someone who never loved me. Tears rolled down his cheeks. How can you forgive me? How can you even look at me after what I did to you? I got up from my chair and sat next to him. I took his face in my hands, like when he was a child and had nightmares. Michael, listen to me well. We all make mistakes. Everyone. What is important is not the mistake, but what you do after committing it. You recognized your mistake. You asked for forgiveness. You ended a toxic relationship. You are rebuilding your life. That requires more courage than never making a mistake. Do you really forgive me? I already told you. I forgave you from the moment you had the courage to seek the truth. We hugged tightly, and I felt that something that had broken between us was starting to heal. It wasn't completely healed. There were still scars. It still hurt, but it was healing, and that was enough for now. 3 months later, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Emily? This is Mr. Henderson. Lawyer, what happened? I have news. Linda was arrested this morning. I felt a knot in my stomach. Arrested? Why? Fraud. It turns out that after the divorce with Michael, she tried the same trick with another man, a businessman from Phoenix. She told him she was pregnant, took money from his accounts, sold some of his belongings. My God, but this man was smarter. He hired a private investigator. He discovered her entire history, the previous scams, the fake pregnancies, everything, and he filed criminal charges. And now she faces charges for aggravated fraud. It could be up to 8 years in prison. Besides, the other previous victims are joining the class action lawsuit. Her mother is also testifying. I remained silent, processing the information. How is Michael? I asked. Does he know? I notified him an hour ago. He said that he hopes she learns, that she finds help, but that it is no longer his problem. Good, I said. That is mature of him. There is something else, Emily. Michael complied with all his payments, the $1,300 monthly for 4 months straight, without fail, without complaints. I know. I have been monitoring the account. He wants to know if you would consider renegotiating the contract. Not to pay less, but to be able to visit you more often. He says he misses talking to you. I felt a lump in my throat. Tell him to come to dinner on Sunday. I am going to make roast beef, his favorite. I heard the smile in the lawyer's voice. I will tell him. And Emily, it gives me pleasure to see that things are improving. Thank you, lawyer, for everything. Sunday came, and Michael arrived with flowers and a chocolate cake. You didn't have to bring anything, I told him as I opened the door. I wanted to. It is the least I can do. We ate together. We talked about his work, his new apartment, his future plans. We talked about Jessica and David, about the grandchildren who lived far away. We talked about everything and nothing, like we used to do before Linda appeared. And it was normal, comfortable, healing. When we finished dinner, Michael took an envelope out of his backpack. What is that? I asked. Open it. I opened it carefully. Inside were legal documents. They were the deeds to the house, transferred completely to my name, without conditions, without commodatum, without anything. Michael, what is this? It is yours, Mom. It always was. But now it is official, 100% yours. I renounce any right over it. But the house was for you. It was a gift that you were ashamed to keep. But you need a secure heritage, a place of your own, and that house is yours. I am going to build my own path, as I should have done from the beginning. Tears ran down my cheeks. And where are you going to live? I am going to stay in my apartment. I am saving to buy something of my own in a few years, something I earn, not something given to me. Michael, let me do this, Mom. Let me show you that I learned, that I grew, that your sacrifice was not in vain. I hugged him tight, my son, my boy who was no longer a boy, who was finally becoming the man I always knew he could be. 6 months later, I was in that same house on Jacaranda Street, but now it was different. I had cleaned every corner. I had painted the walls new colors. I had put plants in every window. Jessica had helped me renovate the kitchen. David had helped me repair the garden. And Michael came every Sunday to eat with me. Sometimes he brought his siblings. Sometimes he came alone. But he always came. Punctual, respectful, loving. One afternoon, the four of us were in the garden, me, Michael, Jessica, and David, drinking lemonade under the shade of the bougainvilleas that I myself had planted years ago. "Do you know what day it is today?" I asked. "What day?" asked Jessica. "It has been exactly a year since I arrived from my sister Grace's funeral and found my things in the garden." An uncomfortable silence fell. "Mom," began Michael. "No," I interrupted him with a smile. "I'm not saying it to make you feel bad. I say it because a year ago I thought I had lost everything. My house, my dignity, my family, my son." I looked at the three of them. But what really happened is that I lost the illusions, the lies, the fake relationships, and when all that was gone, I discovered what really mattered. "What?" asked David. "You, the ones who stayed, the ones who fought for me, the ones who showed me that family is not perfect, but it can be real." Michael wiped his eyes discreetly. "I also discovered something about myself," I continued. "I discovered that I can be strong, that I can set boundaries, that I can ask for respect without feeling guilty, that I don't have to accept crumbs of love." "You taught us all a lesson, Mom," said Jessica. "Sometimes the greatest love is the one that says no more." Exactly. And today, a year later, I'm sitting in my garden, in my house, with my children who love me for real, drinking lemonade, in peace. "In peace," repeated the three. We toasted with our glasses of lemonade, and we laughed. And for the first time in a long time, I felt that everything was where it should be. That night, when my children left and I stayed alone, I went out to the garden one last time. I looked at the stars, the same sky I had looked at a year ago when I thought my life was over. But it hadn't ended. It had started again. I had fallen, I had broken, I had hit rock bottom, but I had gotten up, and I had learned the most important lesson of all. That dignity is not given, it is defended. That respect is not begged for, it is demanded. That true love does not humiliate, it elevates. And that never, never is it too late to clean your life of everything that does not serve you, even when that means staying alone for a while. Because being alone with your dignity intact is better than being accompanied in humiliation. I smiled, looking at the stars. "Thank you, Grace," I whispered, thinking of my sister. "Thank you for teaching me that life is short, and that we shouldn't waste it on people who don't value us." The wind blew gently, moving the bougainvilleas, and I swear I felt my sister's answer in that wind. "You're welcome, little sister. Now live. Live for real." And that was exactly what I did. I lived, with dignity, with peace, with self-love, and with the certainty that I had won the most important battle of all. The battle for my own soul. If this story reached your heart, it is because something in it resonated with you. Maybe you have also been humiliated by someone who should love you. Maybe you have also felt that you are not worthy, that you are a burden, that you should accept crumbs. Let me tell you something. From the bottom of my soul, you are worthy. You have always been worthy. And you deserve respect. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter if you are a mother, grandmother, daughter, or sister. It doesn't matter how many times they have made you feel small. You have a right to your dignity, to your space, to your peace, to your happiness. And if someone, anyone, makes you feel less than what you are, then it is time to do some cleaning, to say, enough, to set boundaries, to demand respect, to defend yourself. Because life is too short to live it on your knees, and never, never is it too late to get up. I did it at 67. You can too. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you are watching me from. Mexico, Colombia, United States, Spain. I would love to know that these words reached you. Like if you believe that dignity is priceless. And subscribe for more stories of brave women who decided not to give up. Because we all have a warrior inside waiting to wake up. We just need the courage to let her out. The end.